Hello, this is Bill Bushka. I'm going to talk about some of the problems with the sustainability of user-generated content on the web as I understand it. Let me first just show you a site that I've had since 1999. There's a lot of material on here. It's a very simple site in simple HTML. There are a lot of blogs. For example, here's a movies blog of reviews. Since 2016, it's been mostly short films, although what you're seeing there is some major films. Review of items that have been on television and on video channels. Review of music compositions and stage plays. Book reviews, which again, since 2016 has been mostly shorter things and previews of books, and I'll get into why that changed in just a minute. And then here's a blog that where I cover a lot of the technology and free speech issues, and particularly the tricky issues in the internet. And on all these blogs on Blogger, there are a lot of categories, and if you go to any particular category, you can see all the postings. For example, Section 230, which is a important topic in free speech today. There are 136 posts. This blog has been in effect since 2006. So I have a huge number of posts about all the developments concerning Section 230, which is part of the Communications Decency Act, which shields platforms from downstream liability for most torts, although not including copyright. That's a separate thing. So you can see there are a lot of postings that go back over time. They go back as far back as 2006. Here's something about some of the international problems. Here's a post today about Trump's recent order regarding asylum seekers and the idea that if you enter the country illegally, he's going to keep them in detention a long time. Here's one on domestic issues. Most of these have AdSense. Sometimes on some of the more sensitive topics that doesn't show up. This is general public policy questions, but not as much about the technology as about all the other stuff. Then something for retired people, then a couple of recent posts about income tax problems. And LGBT issues. Like here's a posting about Pete Buttigieg. Here's a posting about some criticism of the gay community by a conservative blogger, Hunter, and then here's about Pope Benedict and Palm Sunday and a transgender military ban. Here's something about the job market, about what the gender. Here's a posting about the job market for former Trump administration officials, which might not be too good for some of them. Internet safety. Here's a blog about preventing identity theft. And I've worked in the credit industry before, so I know a lot about credit scores and how they work. For some reason, some of the here's a blog about network neutrality. And trademark issues. For some reason the AdSense isn't working very well. Well, that time it worked. And then here's the problem that we had back in 2007 or back in around before actually 1998 with the Child Online Protection Act, which followed the Communications Decency Act. Here's a blog about that with a lot of the opinion. It was related to the original CDA. It was struck down in 2007, but some of the reasoning in the opinion still matters today. here's a post where I talk about that. And again, you can click on any label with any post, and you can see all the earlier posts about that same label. And all these blogs are like that. You can see all the posts for any label if you click on a label at the bottom of the blog. Then we go into the WordPress blogs. And I called this media reviews because I thought I was going to do mostly movie reviews, but what eventually happened was, and these are a little bit slower, these are in WordPress. I started mostly been talking about my own writing because I have a screenplay based on my books, and I have a novel I'm trying to finish, so I talk about my progress on those mostly, and I also do some of my own filming. When I've been to demonstrations and filmed some stuff, I put some of my own footage on here. The Do Ask Do Tell Footnotes blog, it's awfully slow, are additional footnotes from my books, but then there are also detailed comments about very specific incidents in my own life that are largely about things that are covered in the books. And so for example, you can go down here and see, for each of my books, you can see a particular chapter, and you can see all the comments I made about that particular chapter. Same, WordPress has a label concept, it also has a tag concept, just like the others. So all the postings I've made that have to do with chapter 3 of my third DAT book, for example, come up when you go and look at it this way. Or you can look at, let's say, I don't know why that says chapter 10, it should be chapter 1, I just noticed that. The Do Ask Do Tell chapter 1 book, which is 2000 and which is actually 1997, that's right. Let me see if this connection's a little bit, yeah, well, you got 3 bars, so it's a little bit slow, this Verizon connection. But here's some stuff on chapter 1, I think that's chapter, forget which chapter it is. And then the news commentary was set up in 2016 because I was a little concerned about the future of Blogger, and I'll get into all of that in a minute. So I set up some stuff on WordPress with a domain that I was paying for rather than using somebody else's free service. So I started covering the more serious topics where I would connect the dots between a lot of different news stories and then comment on them in longer perspectives. For example, here's something I did the other day about the downstream liability issue, which is becoming a big deal in internet law right now, in which there is a lot of threat to some of the downstream liability protections that allow that enable people to actually submit user-generated content at all. And here I wrote a posting, I think it was a week ago today, walking you through what I think is likely to happen in the next few years, and we'll go over that in another video in just a minute. But here's a posting, and then you can see, even on this one, in WordPress, I've got the labels over here, like I've got section 230. You can see all the posts that have to do with section 230 of the CDA on my WordPress blog here. And the content on this blog is, by and large, has replaced some of the content on would have been on Blogger before, but since 2016 I've been putting more of it on here. And then here's this last one I want to show you, which is the media commentary blog, which covers movies and books. and sometimes music and opera and plays. Again, it's a little bit the system's a little bit slow today. But again, you can see I've got topics over here. For example, if you want to see all the movies and blogs about let's look at science fiction, for example. If you want to see all the science fiction movies and books, you can click on the WordPress label is over in the right. Well, the most recent science fiction film I reviewed was High Life. And then there's Otherword Soundwave, which is a very interesting film I saw at the Virginia Film Festival. Behind the Curve, about flat Earth conspiracy theories, and Black Mirror, which was controversial. That was on network. Alien Code. There's, a lot of these, and I have a lot of LGBT films reviewed. Let's see if I can pull that up. I tend to review the things that are maybe less well known and maybe less politically correct, or maybe a little more challenging to conventional belief systems. It's my own political belief system. It's more toward libertarianism than conventional, the conventional left as far as how rights should work. I believe in individual rights more than group rights, but you can tell that in the tone of these posts. The Year We Thought About Love is a very interesting film. They actually filmed a scene at the Boston Marathon when the attack happened. Eugen and Onegin, the opera by Tchaikovsky, is being interpreted as a somewhat gay story now by some people. So here's a review of the opera. Room to Grow is a documentary about GLBTQ teens in Portland, Oregon, and in Salt Lake City, and then you can go down and see another one. And you can they're all aggregated here. 5 Feet Apart is about, there's a gay character, and that's about teens with cystic fibrosis. That's a major studio film from Studio 54, which is about the history of the disco in New York in the 70s and 80s. Queercore, that had a punk revolution. That was interesting. I try to find films that are not as well known. And then over on the right side of this page, I've got the text of my books. And sometimes the site's a little bit slow because it's on a server, it's in an application pool, and sometimes it doesn't respond real quickly. It's not on the best platform in the world. If I can get it to respond. Yeah, there it is. Here's the text alike of my third book. Here's the chapter I just showed you, and here's the actual text. Some of the text is PDFs, and some of it's like here's my first book, and some of the text is, it's just HTML based off of Word, and you can actually browse the book. You can actually go to sections of various chapters and so forth. As I explained in an earlier video, this book was inspired in large part by the way I got involved with the debate over Don't Ask, Don't Tell, which from 1993, Bill Clinton's policy. That was solved in 2011, as you remember, when it was finally repealed, and right now it's Trump's ban of transgender soldiers is getting a lot of attention. But that was before. That's an older book. And then over here I have like movie reviews that are older in an older format. Most of these reviews were written before 2007. Again, the site's slow, the server seems to be slow today. I want to see if I can show you, if it comes up, I can show you the page. It seems to be awfully slow. There it is. And here's a lot of reviews. They're grouped together as maybe 300 or 400, maybe 400 or 500 movies talked about, and you can look at some individual ones, and they're in various formats and so forth. There's an old firm. My site used to be called HP Pub for High Productivity Publishing. I dropped that name in 2005, but that was the original name before I named the site after my book, which is Do Ask, Do Tell. And then if you go to, I'm going to just show you one other thing, and then I'm going to go back to this Footnotes blog and show you the page where I talk about my books. And here's the iUniverse link for the first book, for example. And now the response time seems to be improving again. Here's the third of these books is actually Ex Libris. There's a site for it. And here's a marketing site for it, which is pretty nifty if you can actually look at pieces from the book. On this site, it's a little more professionally formatted than some of mine is. This was done by another company, but you can actually look at pages from the book on this site. And then I'm on Amazon, and they're all aggregated, and there's 4 of them. There's also a book called Our Fundamental Rights from 1998. It's kind of obsolete. It's just still out there. Just some printed copies that I've got. This is print on demand, so you order it, it gets printed, and it gets mailed by Amazon. Or you can look at Barnes & Noble, has the same thing. And you can see the same things on Barnes & Noble, which you can download to either Kindle or Nook. Some of them I used to have, I can also make advertising snippets from Amazon Associates and embed them in websites. But the problem is with some of these older self-published books, they keep changing the URL, and it reverts back to the generic Amazon site, and so it doesn't seem to work if I do that all the time. But those are the pictures of the covers and everything. And then here's all my other social media. I should get rid of that because Google Plus isn't around anymore. I didn't get around to getting rid of that. And then over here, there's some other things. I have my old resume. Again, that's my old, when I was working as a computer programmer, and I've got some readers' comments that I used to get, from emails and so forth. This is before social media, because these comments are like more than 10 years old. Now everything generally goes onto my blogs, or I get comments on Twitter and Facebook, and I don't really get comments by email very much anymore, but I used to. I've got other links down here, like I've got a link that discusses my attempts at writing screenplays, and that's been controversial in the past. But here's treatments, and then PDFs of actual final draft screenplays. For example, let's do let's see, I haven't looked at baptism in a long time, so I don't remember real well, but that's what a screenplay looks like. This is for a short film. So that's kind of what my universe is. I didn't mean to. And so that's the world that I've got. And you may have noticed for some reason other sites came up because they are cached in the browser of other people I know. I didn't intend that when we were doing it, but that's all right. But anyway, we'll take a break now, and then we'll go back and talk about what the future of this is, and I'll explain some problems that are going on right now.